Political analyst Professor Sethulego Matebesi joins us now to also weigh in on some of the controversial government of national unity as well as its formation. So, Professor, always great having you with us. A very good afternoon to you. Let's first talk about the political parties that have been rumored to be part of this GNU cabinet and how the inclusion of these political parties actually might or might not influence the direction of the future government.
Hi, good afternoon, Alicia, and good afternoon to the viewers. What is very significant, it seems as if almost there is a rush by some political parties who have not been part of this government of national unity, who now suddenly have woken up. I mean, yesterday we've heard about Rise Mzansi joining, we've heard about UDM, and perhaps very briefly, if I can just reflect on the UDM. The UDM has been represented by someone who I regard perhaps as a lone ranger in its leader, Bantolomisa, at Parliament, but he has been such a voice of reason. And I strongly believe that irrespective of the political spectrum or where we belong, South Africans do respect somebody like that. And for him to have lost or divorced himself from the so-called progressive forces, for me, that simply means that some leaders still believe in the formation of this government of national unity. But it's going to be a slippery slope going forward, because there are too many issues that needs to be dealt with. But I strongly believe one of the primary concerns for many South Africans will not be politicking, but it will be service delivery and effective governance.
And speaking of those many issues, Prof, I mean, ideally under the current proposals, which we are yet to be filled in on as the public in terms of the current makeup, what do you think we have learned through, or also some of the stuff that we've learned through media reports recently of the GUN parties? How would and should power be distributed then among the different political parties in a GNU cabinet? And also what roles as well as responsibilities are then likely to be allocated to these key parties involved, again, if we go just by the current model that the ANC, the DA, as well as IFP are the founding members of this GNU?
Well, I think that what comes first to mind will be the whole issue of proportionality, but that in itself is a huge challenge, because the question is, will the African National Congress wants to give so much to the opposition? And we need to be sincere. Behind the scenes, what we are going to see and experience in front of us and in the media, there will be a lot of things that takes place behind the scenes. And I strongly believe by now, many political parties, whether they are going to or are already part of this government of national unity, will already have cast their eye on the forthcoming local government elections. So yes, they are sincere, they go into this, but they will also want to outmaneuver the African National Congress. But let that not be dirty politics, because I strongly believe that that will once again put us where we are in terms of bad governance, lack of proper service delivery and all that. But I strongly believe that key positions, perhaps the African National Congress, like the finance ministry, they would want to maintain. But I've already seen some people sharing on several platforms that there's even a possibility that we may have a second deputy president. And we should not just try and configure our parliament and cabinet to try and appease certain politicians. Service delivery, good governance should be the primary factor.
Look, speaking of the media, Prof, the latest reports, or let me say allegations today, indicate a deadlock in reaching some agreements on who to appoint at even provincial level. But let me reiterate, at this stage, we're not privy to the actual reasons for the postponements or delays in appointing some of these members. Should this be the way to start this journey? And then secondly, what major policy changes or even continuations can then be expected under the GNU cabinet in trying to then understand the continuous issue of the current parties having very different ideologies as well as policies, and speculation being that they might now try to push those through within this arrangement of the GNU?
Well, I strongly believe that South Africans have to be patient, and this is understandable. I mean, a formation of this magnitude, it will be for the first time. And I've heard people referring to there being a government of national unity in the past, but it is never of the same magnitude and perhaps holding the same potential impact for political parties, not only for the African National Congress. And that's why there will be a lot of back and forth on this particular issue. Let us afford our leaders that. But for me, going forward in terms of sustainability, I think this is a glorious opportunity, not only for our leaders, but for South Africa as a country to demonstrate that irrespective of what a next general election holds, South African leaders can work together to advance the interests of South Africans. And that's where we need to start. We should move away from the chaotic situation that we have seen happening in our local municipalities. And that's why I say we hear about progressive forces. We have seen what some of our progressive forces can do, and just look at the state of our municipalities in terms of coalitions.
And Prof, I mean, what could be the long-term implications of a GNU for South Africa's democratic processes as well as a political landscape? How might a GNU then influence the future of not only elections but the party dynamics? I'm glad that you mentioned the issue of or comparison to the 1994 government of national unity. And you are right. I mean, in this case, it's totally a different manner in that the ANC at that particular time had won a landslide victory or an outright majority. So these two really cannot be said to be comparable.
Yes, not at all. But for me, I will start with the ruling party, or the former ruling party, the African National Congress. Already, I mean, even before its tripartite alliance partners came out guns blazing like COSATU. But I, once again, will be very blunt on this particular issue. I don't understand, can we still afford to have a labor federation which is in bed with a ruling party? I mean, COSATU and the ANC has run their race, and we understood political and historical reasons why there was this sort of relationship. But today, South African workers deserve better. So there will be a lot of hullabaloo from the South African Communist Party going forward, perhaps, because they've made it as if this GNU, it's about the African National Congress and the Democratic Alliance. And I think they will be very critical going forward about the presence of the Democratic Alliance. But as I've indicated, without the African National Congress, I still ask myself, what is the relevance of parties like the South African Communist Party? Will they be able to stand alone? But yes, as an alliance party, the ANC has to listen to them. But I strongly believe going forward, but even those who have not come out guns blazing within the party, there will be some members who are very critical of this. And I strongly believe that this will perhaps set a tone for the internal dynamics within the African National Congress. But also, to what extent, what are we, those who are operating in the media, what will our take be if perhaps this government of national unity is not delivering on some of its promises? Are we going to blame the African National Congress, or are we going to blame these opposition parties, which in actual fact, there is an expectation that they should still play their, oversight role. And it's going to be a tricky situation. But one thing that I strongly believe that is very commendable, because we are where we are because of a political democratic decision by South African voters.
Absolutely, Prof. Thank you so much. I mean, the issue of accountability, who do you then hold into account when everything goes pear-shaped under this proposed GNU? Thank you so much, Prof, as always, for your eye-opening views there. Professor Sethulego Matebesi, the political analyst, on the awaited cabinet announcements, as well as some of the issues under the GNU.